Okay, welcome to Satsang. We all know that Satsang is about the truth, which is here and now. Lately, since I've included some video clips into the internet, I've been getting even more questions than before. So I'd like to address some of these that are relevant, and hopefully that what we're going to cover today will be very clear to make these questions actually redundant. One particular one that I got just today, and it said, "Hi Burt, in your scripts you often mention there's nothing to learn. Can you please elaborate?" Okay, one of the things that we eventually learn is that there is nothing to learn, but only to unlearn. We develop a lot of patterns, you see, and initially we just say, oh, I'm going to learn something new. But the truth is that there's nothing to learn because you know all the truth that there is to know. And that is, you are here, and it is now. And this presence is everything, answers everything, and is all that we ever want. So even now, which will be covering more in-depth questions, I'd like you to focus on one very important thing. Okay? Just be here. Be totally here. Forget your name, forget your past for a moment, forget any ideas, and just see, what are you right now? And what you are is here. Presence. You're aware of everything. Did you know when you stop paying attention to a particular thing, you're aware of everything? You're aware of the people in the room, you're aware of the colors, you're aware of the carpet. Immediately, there's total awareness. Did you know that that total awareness, the total presence that you are, is complete? It is love, it is compassion, it is forgiveness, it is allowing, it is surrender, it is beauty. It is the eternal in you, because it's the only thing that does not change. See, when we look out, everything is changing. Everything. But you, the awareness of you never changes. You look at your album when you were a baby and a teenager and an adult. So many changes have gone through, but you still say, I am that baby. Why? Because you've always been the same awareness. It cannot die because it was never born. You see? But why is it that we refuse to see it? You see, there's a part of us that refuses to see it. One other question that I got yesterday, which would be relevant here. It's a very long email, but I'm just going to quote just one little thing. This woman had requested a video, and I sent it to her, and she watched it with her husband. And she said the following: my husband came in and started watching it, and at the end asked, how do you teach someone the second part? And she said, well, what second part are you referring to? He said, the part that needs to feel it and apply it to everyday living. You see, we believe that when we hear certain words, that we know the words. You don't know the words until you begin to recognize them with your own heart, applying it to now. Now, this presence, this love that you are, this moment itself. And it is not hard to recognize because it's all that there is. You might say, this is all that there is? Oh, yes. But it's infinite, it's eternal. You might say, what about tomorrow? Show me tomorrow. You see? Show me yesterday. But now I can show you. Here you are, aware. You see? And this is the truth. This is it. And this is called aliveness. Aliveness, you see? Alive. I am. I am this aliveness. And this aliveness is all that there is. Now we think, that there's something esoteric we're going to learn, or there are many masters, there are teachers who are going to teach us, there is this and there is that. But in truth, there is nothing but this. See, when Jesus said the kingdom of God is within you, he wasn't whistling Dixie. You know, he was saying, this is it. It's not going to be, you're not going to achieve it. You're not going to even acquire it. Nothing. It is. It is now complete. Another thing too that I found fascinating is the thing about time. You see, because the moment we begin to see how everything is now, then the question does not arise, how am I going to live it? The question does not arise, because the moment you recognize that this presence is all that there is, it lives you. You don't live it anymore. You see, it starts living you. You meet the people at the right time, you meet the right book, you hear the right thing, you just hear, you're in love. You see? You're in love because you are that very love itself, which is presence. So there's nothing apart from it. One thing about being here now, being in this moment, this presence, is the thing about time. And of course the time is brought about by the earth rotating around the sun, right? We know that. But what happens, we gave it words, we gave it seconds, we gave it minutes, we gave it hours, you know, we gave it days, weeks, months, years, etc., etc. But all we ever see is the change that is happening within presence. So, for example, if I were to walk from here to there, it would take me a couple of seconds. You see? If I were to walk from here to the end of the street, it might take me 10 minutes. If I were to walk from here to Toronto, it might take me... Just to give you an idea. But is really time going by, or is it just motion of energy? And so because of that, we think in terms of time. So people think of eternity as a very, very long time. Forever time, you see? But now, eternity has nothing to do with time. Nothing. Eternity is now. You see? Now can never end because it never began. So when you begin to experience your presence, you realize you haven't even been born. Oh, you were given a form, you see, called soul, which is, of course, that particular aspect of you, which is a unique expression of you. But you, the real you, which is nothing but aliveness, awareness, being here, has never known. Can you think, can you imagine, never have been? Or never going to be? It can't. Because the one who's aware is awareness itself. The Christ, the God, the is, the I am. You see, it doesn't matter what title, the Buddha, it doesn't matter what you call it. It's all the same thing. It's all the oneness. So, what is interesting is that I went over on my questions in the email, and I just collected a few. I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay? And what each one believes, and I put it down. So one, for example, person asked, how do you love yourself? Because am I loving the ego, or am I loving the real self? Well, first of all, there is only one self. Presence. Okay? That's all that there is. Everything else comes because you don't believe you are the presence, you believe you are time. I believe I am Burt, my accomplishments, and my past. That is part of the package, yes. But my real essence is now, is this moment. You see, if I identify for 1 second about being who I think I am, at that moment I lose touch with this presence. Now let's see what happens when you start losing touch with this presence. First of all, loving yourself really is nothing more than self-respect. A woman asked me, and she said, Burt, she said, you know, I still suffer guilt and shame and these feelings, and many people say that to me. What is shame? What is guilt? Let me give you an example. See, presence is that part that is aware. It's constantly witnessing. It's aware of everything. It's just like somebody back here looking at everything. Did you know that when you're angry, there's a part of you that is aware that you're being angry? And the more aware you are, probably you start laughing after a while, how insane the whole thing was. You see, there's always a watcher. So let's assume you enter a store, okay? I'm just making it up as I go along, but I think it's going to be good. Thank you. And so you enter a store, and it's full of goodies, and you don't have much money, and there are no store detectives, and you see the one thing you want. You wanted it so badly, but you don't have the money. Now, nobody's watching. There's no one. All you have to do is put it in your pocket, and you walk out, right? You know, you're not going to be caught. It's impossible because nobody's watching, nobody's there. Okay? What happens the moment you do that? You suffer a little guilt. Yeah. Why is that? There's nobody watched, nobody told you did something wrong. Because there is the presence, the watcher constantly is. And the moment you cheat, the moment you lie, the moment you are not being true to yourself in any way, you lose self-respect. It's so subtle. When you're angry, when you're frustrated, when you're irritable at things around you, it's nothing more than losing self-respect. That's all it is. You're not respecting yourself. It is very, very subtle, but what is self-respect? You see? You know that you have lied. You know that you weren't real. You know that you judged that person or that thing. You see? And somehow, even though you say to yourself, no, I'm right, I'm doing this, it's blah, 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 blah. No matter how much you justify it, you still don't feel good. And that feeling of no goodness is the blockage of the presence that you are. You see, all we need to do, when people ask me, but I know all this, oh, I hear it so often. No, you don't. If you're not living it, you don't know it. It is a matter of recognizing it, because it's so darn simple to be the truth. The truth is so simple that every child lives it. The only problem with a child, of course, that the child does not recognize it. But it's in its innocence, it is living the truth. Even our cat, Bushi, is living the truth. But he doesn't recognize it, he doesn't know it. You see? Whereas we need to recognize it. And when we start recognizing it, you don't even have to consider whether to live it or not. You're living it automatically, that very recognition. Because there is this love that takes over your life, you see. Now when we think about love, we always think of it as something. And we make mistakes that way, okay? Love is not a thing. Love is not something. Love and presence are one and the same thing. There is no separation between the two, see? But the moment you try to gain something to make it personal, you have extricated yourself from the oneness. Without realizing it, of course, you do it through ignorance, through unawareness. I'm going to gain something. You see, just like somebody stealing or somebody cheating or somebody thinks only of money rather than service. I'm going to gain something. The moment you think you're going to gain something, you're actually, in the overall, you are losing. You see? Because you're losing that sense of peace where you can sleep well at night, when you can be feeling that purity inside. You know what purity is? You know, many times when we study religion or Christianity, we have to be pure. That's not purity. Purity is not imposed on you. Purity is when you know your presence. Because presence is complete. Presence is whole. Presence itself is love. And it is not attained, it is not controlled, it is not done anything. The moment you realize it, you see, immediately you're aware. You're aware. Tell me what you're not aware of now. Everything. Even as you listen to me, you still hear the sounds outside. Awareness is total. And where does it come? Where does awareness start? Where does it end? See, there's no limit. Why? Because nobody owns awareness. Awareness is. You see? It's the God. It's the totality. It's the infinite. It's the being. So whenever we make something personal, and there's nothing wrong with keep falling into that personal, as long as you remain aware. You see, that is the whole point. you begin to feel irritable, you begin to feel uncomfortable, you begin to start to protect and defend yourself, you see, because you have lost actually respect for yourself. And when, the moment you lose respect for yourself, even minutely, then you're going to be on the defensive to protect this image that you think you are. You see? So, these are some of the things that I had collected. The belief that you're a separate person. Now, we have, all teachings tell us that there is no separation. We hear it as satsang, we read about it, we extol it even ourselves, but to be aware that there is no separate person, that is quite something. So the big question is, but how can I be constantly aware that there is no separation? You don't have to. Just know that you are presence. And at that moment, there's no separation. Right now, be the presence you are. Where is the separation? You see? Last week I said, what are you? Right now, what are you? And then Crystal was so beautiful and she said, I am the sounds I hear outside. And that was beautiful, that was actually touching, you see? Because you are whatever you are aware of. You see? Right now, if I were to ask you, what are you right now? Really? Oh, you have a lot of images about yourself, but what you are is everything that you're experiencing, everything that you are seeing and hearing and knowing. You see? That is all you, because there's nothing apart from you. That's how you begin to realize your non-separation, your total being. And then when you see, you automatically become responsible. Now when I say responsible, I don't mean feeling responsible for somebody else's act or for whatever. Responsibility simply means this: being responsible, the ability to respond to this moment. You see, that's what responsibility means. How you respond in this moment. If you're responding from presence, then you're being responsible. If you don't respond from presence, then you're not being responsible. It is really that simple, you know. Let me give you an example, because this might not be very clear. One time a woman asked me, how do you become, respond to the moment? And that's being responsibility. I said, well, one time you were coming to satsang and your child was sick. But you had never missed a satsang before. But this time your child was sick. What was the immediate thing? The child was sick. The question of where to go to satsang or not, or be with the child, does not arise. You stay with the child. See, that's responding to the moment. You see? So that was responsibility. So responsibility is not something you impose on yourself, it is being present. And the question does not arise what you should do or not do, because there is only now. And how you treat the now, how you become with the now, is what is real, what is true. The belief that everything happens either without or within. You see? We hear the sounds outside. Oh, it's happening outside. And somebody else will say, no, it's happening within you, because my brain is pounding, hearing that hammering outside or that screaming outside, and I can hear it in my auditory nerve. So is it then inside and outside? What would you say?
Both.
It's both at the same time. You see? It's both at the same time. But there isn't either or. In presence there is no either or. Feel that. You see? It is. And when we move with that isness, there can be no separation, no selfishness, no lack of love, no misunderstanding. You see? Total, absolute clarity. It is so simple. The belief that there is a separate God from you. I was brought up in that belief. I know many religious people believe that. They actually pray to God. Who do you pray to when you pray? Who do you pray to?
Well, I sort of think of it as, I still think of it as my higher self, but I'm asking to give me the answer that I'm looking for.
Okay. So prayer is that form of thing. There is a part in us that at this moment it is not clear yet. It still may be caught a little bit. Okay? And then automatically becomes a prayer. So what you're doing is giving it to the allness that you are. Right? You see? And that allness will respond. So you're praying to presence which you are. You see? But whenever there is doubt, whenever there is fear, whenever there is uncertainty, whenever somehow you're shaken up to the point where you're in a fog, I don't know what to do now, stop. And pray to this presence. I call it the I Am presence. And that very thing reminds you that in presence there is no lack. Nothing is limited. Nothing can be unanswered. Because it is complete. Listen to that. Complete. Infinite. Total. Eternal. There's no end. There's no beginning. Just is. Imagine the beauty of that. And all you have to do is just, I am. And remember that. And the moment you remember that, comes the answer. You see, you prayed for an answer and you heard it immediately because you were open to it. So that's what prayer really is. Prayer is also, yeah.
So prayer is merging?
Prayer is merging. That's beautiful. There is a tree there and you say, oh my God, it's such a beautiful tree. Nature. And you look and you see it for the first time. That's a prayer. You see, it's merging with the tree. You're with a child and you hold that child and you're loving that child. There's a merging with the child. That's a prayer. A prayer is merging. It is a oneness. You see? It is as I'm melting with what is. You know? And at the same time, because there's no separation between you and that. Yeah. I like that word, merging. Yeah. Yeah.
Yet, Burt, there seems to be most of the prayers that we have from, the sages or whatever.
Yeah.
Are praying to something, they're calling it by a name of something.
Yeah, that's okay too though, you see. Did you ever really look at the Father's prayer, our Father who art in heaven?
Yeah.
Listen to those words, and it's all about presence. So this, we go back to what I'm saying, okay? That whenever you begin to recognize there's only presence, then something takes over. And you might find yourself praying. You might find yourself chanting. You might find yourself, I don't know, falling in love with everything and anyone. There is this incredible energy that comes alive in you. And you allow it. You see? And that very allowing of that energy is the grace that is purifying you. And taking away all that egoic surplus that was there. See, that's why the word forgiveness is so beautiful. Because forgiveness means it's a cleansing of everything that you have thought which was not real. Because anything that is not presence is relative truth. It is not the truth. It is relative. Relative truth means everything it has come from presence. Everything that we see. The wall, the carpet, people, bodies, the technology, everything has come from presence. You see? Presence is the ultimate reality from which everything creates. But this presence also creates thought and emotion that comes from thought. So everything that we feel is coming from presence, but is not the presence. It is coming from it. Cause, effect. Do we see the difference? Okay. The presence is the cause. Thoughts, emotions, all feelings are effects. They're relative to the cause. So therefore they are relative truths. This is why that Einstein came up with this theory of relativity. And he blew away many minds when they started becoming clear of what he meant by the theory of relativity. And he said that everything is relative to light. Everything is relative to that supreme state of being, you see? So. So, okay, we covered these questions, these beliefs that we have, and the one truth, the one reality, the one life-changing one is that there's only presence, there's only now. Now, when I say this, and those of you listening to the video, send me emails, and if you're not clear. Is this very clear when I talk about presence? What you know what it means? Presence, what it is? Presence?
I have a sense of that.
Okay, tell me about the sense of that.
Well, I know how it feels to be in that state of merging, because I know all the nagging discomforts and doubts and thoughts and all that are gone. So at that time,
so there's a moment of merging.
A moment of merging, and I know what that feels like.
Right, that's presence.
Okay.
Yeah, presence is your totality here now. You are here. But forget yourself, forget how you're sitting or who you think you are, and just be. And just observe and see. You see? And you are this presence. That's it. It's very, very simple. It's so simple that we, quote, do not believe it. But once we start living from it, we see that it is everything. Nothing. Because it's the only real thing that there is. There's nothing more real than that. When you look at the look of a child and you look into its eyes, there's only presence that you see. The child has no ego. And at that moment, he's filled with joy, or she's filled with joy, because at that moment there are no needs, nothing. They're just being there, just giggling and laughing, because at that moment there's just presence. You see? And presence is total. Now, the moment there is a need, the moment there's a desire, the moment there's an ego, that doesn't mean there's anything wrong. There's nothing ever wrong. We make it wrong, actually. Just like Shakespeare said, What did Shakespeare say? He said, there's no wrong or right, only thinking makes it so. Thank you. Yeah, and so it is true. So the moment we start to think anything other than presence, we become we get very body conscious. We become body conscious. I am here. And we become body conscious. And that body consciousness is, of course, is part of thinking that you're not present. But the moment you become presence, you forget. You see, you're free. And that freedom, that total freedom, is the presence, because it allows you to merge. It allows you to express, to be that which you are. So are there any questions? We know what presence is.
I was thinking about sometimes when athletes talk about being in the flow, and they were just, they weren't really even aware that they were, for a while when they were playing the game, if that was what they were doing, that it was just, it was just happening through them.
That's
that
right.
Sounds like presence.
Absolutely. Presence is perfection. If an athlete at the moment, he is pure presence because he practiced enough, because he has enough faith in himself, because he is totally immersed, not self-conscious, there's no doubt, nothing. Okay? At that moment there is perfect motion. I remember I was quite an athlete, and I used to love track and field and high jumps, and I used to jump very, very high. And so it was fine because I was winning for my team, blah, blah, blah. One time the manager approached me and he said, I think I mentioned this before, but it's so apropos to what you're asking. And the manager said to me, he says, by God, he says, you jump higher than anybody I know. He says, what is your secret? And I stopped. What is my secret? I don't know. Well, next time I'm going in for competition and going to do jump, I became aware, what is it that I know now? And I couldn't make it. Because I became self-conscious. You see? And that actually goofed me up because I was not aware at that time. You know, I was just an athlete and I was doing what I love doing, so I took it naturally. I was in the flow, but I didn't know that that's what it was. You see? And the moment I became self-conscious, what was my secret? Why am I better than others? The moment I brought it back to an ego level, I started failing, using. So